Okay, I'm gonna try and get some good angles here. I've been here working with fire for a little while with a couple of magnets, and the results are phenomenal. The fire, also known as salamanders in occult terminology, they're entities. And it's not so much the flame itself, it's the essence of the flame. And that essence is unseen. And it's only manifest when certain conditions are met. But the essence exists on the astral plane, in the astral waters. There's so many different ways I could put it. The fourth dimension. Let me stop using the same terminology so that I don't sound so blah 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 blah. But these particular flames are trying to get to each other. I've got a magnet in between them in each candle, a pretty powerful magnet, and as you can see, this fire on the left, it's going up and down. They're wanting to join, or they're being attracted by the magnetism. But that's pretty amazing how the fire is going up and down at the same time. I think that's the first time I've seen that. And if you watch closely, you'll see that even spread some little hands out. They're beings. They're elemental beings. Fire is one of the primary elemental substances of this planet. Earth, water, air, fire, and the father of them all, ether, which I happen to be quite adept. I ain't gonna say adept, but let's say I'm quite familiar with working with, because I work with it on a daily basis. And ether is the source of all of creation for the most part. Things are formed on the astral plane out of astral matter before they condensate and become a lion or a dragonfly or a human being. The mold is made on the astral plane, and then the mold is condensated by higher beings into physical matter and endowed with a degree of consciousness and awareness in order that it can survive. I mean, there's a grand design to this whole thing we call life. There really is. And if you understood the fullness of it, you would be absolutely in reverential awe is an understatement. But you would be so thankful and so exhilarated with the prospects before you, so long as you're a team player and you want to work with the rules. Not the dogmatic commandments that are imposed on us, but simply working with nature, working with each other. Loving creation, loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And treating your fellow man as you want to be treated. I mean, those are the two basic tenets that the majority of the people of this planet's teacher laid down for them. Love your neighbor as yourself was the second, and love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. This is pretty interesting. It's a dance. It's a dancing display. I tend to. This one's even got like. It appears like little hands reaching out. I'm pretty sure they're being attracted. There's nothing personal here. There's no personal connotations with this. These are simply nature elementals interacting with their environment in conjunction with the conditions that I set before them. But I get creative and I try different things to see the results. And I'm a daredevil. I'll boldly go where no man has gone before without hesitation, so long as my heart feels that it's the right thing to do. And especially if it has to do with the welfare of the greater good of mankind. You know, one of my teachers taught me that to learn to live to benefit mankind is the first step on the path of spiritual fulfillment, or the path of occultism. And when I say occultism, I don't mean hocus pocus stuff. I don't mean witchcraft. I mean an intimate working knowledge of the principles in nature. Not just the physical nature, but there's an unseen part of nature that the physical is based upon and is subject to, and is infallible largely. I ain't gonna say completely impeccable, but it follows suit. And having a knowledge of those inner workings. And see, this is really interesting. I've only got 2 flames here. Okay, there's a reflection. Let's go over here and take a look at this one. Let's take a look at this. I mean, it's casting a flame down into the wax. Down into the wax, and it's the magnet. Those 2 black poles. Those are magnets that I put in there. I was curious as to see what the results would be playing with magnetism and fire simultaneously. Oh, y'all wait till I get a hold of some mirrors and magnifying glasses, and I can get outside with a fish tank and get it going really good with the sun, full-fledged. I'm gifted, but I'm deemed crazy. I'm deemed crazy because I don't live inside the box. Life is an open book to me. I'm a wild animal, if you want to call me that, but I'm civilized, and I have a sense of morals, and I have a sense of what's right and what's wrong. Not in the eyes of the church, and not in the eyes of the laws of man, but in the laws of each other, in the eyes of each other, in the eyes of nature. What's the right thing to do? What's the moral thing to do? And you know what? I'm heavily tattooed. I've lived a life of drug abuse and alcoholism, and I've got a soft spot in my heart for alcoholics and drug addicts and prostitutes, and they tend to be the only ones that can relate to me and want to hang out with me. But you know, they do me so raw and so treacherous that it absolutely rips my heart out. And you think that after 30 years I'd be used to it, but I'm not. And I still get surprised. I got surprised yesterday. You know, when you go out of your way, you sincerely go out of your way to help somebody out, let them out of a hole, do some nice things for them, and then they turn around and repay it with treachery. Yeah, this is interesting. I was just going to sit here and meditate on it myself, but I decided to get the camera out and take a look at it a little bit up closer and record it. Yeah, second flame is dipping down in the wax. I mean, this one on this side is doing the same thing. Let's see if I can get a better focus if I get back. It's pretty amazing. I've never tried this experiment, but the magnetism is definitely having a profound effect on the wavering of the flames themselves. I mean, they're dividing them. I mean, I've even seen little pieces of flame come up. I mean, this isn't anything. I've lit in oil lamps. I got tired of spending money on candles, and I started buying oil lamps because I channel fire, and I've learned to channel dark matter through fire, and I need a larger flame, like in a lantern. And I've made videos of just massive, large amounts of black substance flying up from the lanterns or the oil lamps. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here, and there's no telling what we can get happening here. But I'm focusing and I'm channeling right now as we speak, and I'm focusing on the fire, and I'm feeding them dark matter. I've got an intimate connection with a much lower domain than this domain. We could call it the hell of hell, and that's not to say that I'm evil or I'm a hellish person. I got there by accident, and it was some of the most uncomfortable, unpleasant, horrifying, confusing experiences of my entire life that seemed to last billions and trillions of years, but it was actually only seconds, because, you know, there is no such a thing as time. Time doesn't exist. You can make a second seem like an hour, and you can make a week seem like a year. You know, it's all based upon how you're fixating your awareness on the time. And that's why it's healthy and beneficial to find good, positive, constructive things to do with your time, because your time on this planet is very short and limited. I mean, don't you want to get the most out of it that you can? And amassing piles of dirt, whether that hard or, like I've spoken in a video earlier, that dirt be a Camaro or a Cadillac or a nice house. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a nice house, especially if you got a family. But your life solely being spent to amass personal material goods is a complete waste of life. And it's a waste. It's belittling to the soul, and you're wasting precious time that you could be utilizing to open up doors within yourself, capacities within you that are you. They're not in you. They are you. The problem is that human beings have gotten so caught up in identifying with them being their bodies and with the side effects that their bodies have, namely thoughts and emotions, that they've lost total track that they're actually a soul that is using a body, not a soul, not a body that has a soul. And the sooner we can get back in tune with being a soul that is utilizing a body, well, then we can start focusing on the things that are really matter, the things that survive death, those treasures in heaven that Christ spoke about storing up, that moth and rust doesn't consume. You know, that's what we're here to do. We're here to cultivate those spiritual qualities within ourselves. Because if we don't take it with us when we die, then it wasn't what we were here to acquire in the first place. You know, I understand we have families and children to take care of, and that's one thing, and those needs need to be met. And I'm a father of three. One doesn't want anything to do with me due to extenuating circumstances growing up. I was absent out of her life because I was in prison for some stupid things I did when I was 18 years old. But I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And it's a major responsibility in preparing them for the future. I mean, there's not a parent on this planet that can't do a better job at parenting, that can't put forth more effort, put forth more time, more thoughtfulness, more skillfulness in preparing their children for a world that currently is in really bad shape. It's really confusing, and it's confusing for me in some respects, but I have the knowledge of things that y'all couldn't even begin to imagine, and it would all be theory and belief system to y'all, so I'm not even going to go into it, but I have an intimate acquaintance with beings from other dimensions and beings from other planets. And that sounds crazy to you, but I mean, do you really think that Earth's the only planet in the universe? We've got billions and billions and billions and billions of galaxies, and each one of them with untold billions and billions and billions of planets. I mean, do you really think that there's the only civilized, and the species is not that civilized, by the way, self-conscious beings in the universe, that would be the biggest absolute ridiculous belief to hold in your heart based on the statistics. This design that this planet's built on, and that the sun being the spiritual heart of our solar system, our cosmos, the source, the creative energy, the power, it's a divine being in its own right that has evolved itself into being what it is. And we all have the potential to eventually become a sun over gargantuanly large aeonic periods of time. I mean, we got to learn what it means to be a self-conscious mortal first. And many of us don't really do the best that we could do in doing so. I try daily to better myself and to utilize my time in more mindful ways, and I'm really getting on to doing so lately, because I'm not going to be in this physical body eternally, nor would I want to be. It's a change of clothes. It's a day for the soul. You know, the soul wants its night of rest. And I tell you what, I got some miles on my body, and I got some miles on my life. And I could tell y'all stories that countless science fiction novels and fantasy novels could be inspired by, that were true, actual experiences that I indulged in at particular points in time in my life, in the efforts of the war that's been going on. Because there is a war. There is a war. And it's not a war. The war is not on the ground. It's not a war of arms. It's a spiritual, psychic warfare. It's a war between minds. I've been down to Texas, and they have human slaves down there that they have no choice but to be that slave, because they have been psychically overtaken 100%. It's sad, but there's no, until they meet the conditions, figure it out, get the strength. I don't know what the details might be, but until they do that, they're under the thumb of whoever owns them. And there's individuals that own numerous people. Texas is a major problem, and people don't seem to realize that. There are dimensional lines crossed down there that are causing serious conflict in the universe and polluting the atmosphere. And a lot of it's being done intentionally by individuals practicing black magic. You've got the Anunnaki down there trying to control the weather and trying to dominate the gold game so they can replenish their atmosphere. There's so much stuff that mainstream society is so ignorant of, but it's so basic, common knowledge for anybody that wants to stop chasing their desires and their little ideas of what they think life's about, or what they were taught life's about. And it namely revolves around materialism, because we live in the Kali Yuga. It's a dark age. The Hindus broke time periods up in very vast, large amounts of time. And there's 4 ages. And we live in the Kali Yuga, or what the Greeks would call the Iron Age. And it's an age where the pull of matter is stronger than the pull of spirit. See, human beings are dual. They had their mind is dual. There's a higher mind that gravitates towards spirit and soul, and there's a lower mind that gravitates towards the beast and towards the body. And it's a struggle, and it fluctuates back and forth. And if it's left unchecked, the animal body, it runs into self-annihilation. It will simply go crazy and destroy itself. It's sad that we can see it so frequently, and so many people destroying their lives with drugs and ending and doing things to end themselves up in psychiatric facilities, incapable of taking care of their own basic functions. There's so much that I want to talk about, and so much that goes unsaid in my life, and I don't have anybody to talk to. So I decided to start making these videos and maybe getting the attention of somebody that might have some type of interest in something I got to say. You know, I'm nobody. I tell you what, I'm nobody in the bigger picture, but on the relative plane, I'm nothing less than a God in the flesh. And that's not to put myself up on a pedestal, and it's not nothing that you can't become yourself. But when I say I'm a God in the flesh, I mean that I have awakened within myself godlike abilities and intelligence like fire. I can think so fast that I run circles around everybody in the room, and it causes me a lot of problems. I do not fit in with society. I don't know how to interact with people. I've got serious. I had a buddy of mine, or one time I thought he was my buddy. He says I'm socially autistic. I get around people, and people don't know how to interact with me because I can talk about things that their minds cannot grasp, but yet they can't deny that I'm not telling the truth because it's clear as day. Truth is truth. Now look at that being on the back. It's got black and it's got a white face, and it's having a battle with this flame right here. It's got two flames and it's hitting this one flame. I don't know what that entity is. It's some sort of elemental entity. I want to say it's of Earth origin. But I decided to start making videos of these events because they're quite phenomenal, and they really defy orthodox science and saying that, you know, matter is all there is, and there's no nothing, there's no soul, there's no spirituality, there's no spirit side of thing. And now you're sitting there watching firsthand in that back right hand corner, that entity, I don't know what it is. It could be an angel for all I know. Don't ask me. I've got way more questions than I have answers. But I want to say it's feeding it, and it's probably feeding it through the fire of its own essence and lifting it up. See, I've been working on a project. See, it's all about lifting up and raising yourself and raising all the creatures and beings around you to a higher state of being, a more comfortable, a more open, relaxed, spacious consciousness where you're more comfortable in your skin. And that's what it's about. And the only way that you can get that in truth is by coming to peace with yourself, and the easiest way to do that is to simply stop identifying with what you're not, because that's what the majority of this planet does. They identify themselves as something so pathetically less than what they are that it's ridiculous. You are not your body. You have a body. You are utilizing a body while living this earth life. You are a soul that is utilizing this body. You're not a body that has a soul. You are a soul that is utilizing a body. And after this body that you're currently living in returns to the ground, the cycle necessity of karma and reincarnation follows suit, and you will eventually be born back again into another body to pick back up the line of cause and effects that you set in motion in this lifetime and in prior lifetimes. And you, depending upon who you are, you may have a very long history of lifetimes and a whole lot of karma to reap, whether it's good or bad. You know, you call it bad if you don't like it, you call it good if you like it. It's simply karma. And the universe is totally fair. The laws are totally fair. It's a total just law. And one of the beautiful things about the divine and the divinities and the gods, God Almighty if you prefer, is that they go by the rules. They could break the rules if they want. They got to suffer the consequences for them. Those rules were set in motion by higher beings far beyond them. Don't you think God has a God? And those gods have gods too? It's a hierarchy of being infinitely up. And it's infinitely down too. It's absolutely amazing. And you know what? You have the potential to take part in that evolutionary design. It's the divine plan of the ages. It's, man, God loved being God so much, he wanted to come up with a way for individuals that were unself-conscious sparks of divinity, and eventually, through a long series of lifetimes, become gods too. That's why in your book of Genesis, man was made in the image of God, which means all the potentialities in God are manifest in man, but they're sleeping, they're dormant, they're embryonic. Let's go back over here and see what this guy's doing. That's pretty interesting. I'm just trying to tell y'all that there's a lot more to this earth scheme and this divine drama than any of y'all could possibly imagine. And if you're miserable and unhappy, it's because you're making yourself miserable and unhappy based on false views. You're doing it. And you know, the sad thing about it is so many of us get so identified with a particular idea of who and what we are that we cling to our misery and we protect it, and we get offensive when somebody tries to remove it or take it away. Hey, look at this. We got a little war going on right here. Pretty interesting. See, I do stuff like this every day. When I'm not moping or being upset and feeling sorry for myself because of my plight and being around all these people that don't have the slightest clue of very much anything I'm saying and toss me off as crazy. Is he having a baby? Is there a child being born here? I mean, it looks in that I can't quit shaking. I'm so sorry. Here, let me try and quit shaking. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I've seen things that I wouldn't even try to explain, or I wouldn't even share with nobody, because they said they would sound so far-fetched, and it would put me up on a pedestal of being a bad motherfucker that I totally am, 100%. And I say that with utmost humility, because it ain't me, it's what works through me. But at the same time, I am what I've made myself to be through my own self-devised efforts in this lifetime and in prior lifetimes. And that's where it falls on you too. Each and every single one of you listening to this, if anybody is at all, is that your evolution and your spiritual development, your awakening is in your own hands. It doesn't lie in someone else's hands. It's not relying upon a preacher. It's not relying upon a Buddha or a Lao Tzu or a Confucius. Or it's relying upon your own self-devised efforts. I just totally got knocked out of that. I wasn't supposed to see it. There's something really weird going on here. They're throwing the camera off. See, they do that. These entities. They at times I've had them spit on my camera, I've had them slime my camera. I've been attacked many times. I live and learn. I I'm gonna do a long series of videos. Wait till I start channeling the sun. I posted a Facebook video a minute ago of me channeling a YouTube video, and it's gonna all be anonymous because I don't want to be known. I don't like attention. I don't like people focusing on me. I appreciate respect. I don't like being looked at like I'm crazy and talked to like I'm crazy and belittled and talked down on because people are envious or jealous because I know something they don't know. Whenever I'm willing to give it all. I try and give my all, and it's given this generation, it's just never enough, and it's so sad, and it breaks my heart, and I get all up in my feelings, and men typically respond to hurt feelings with anger, and so I get a little angry. It's like a counterbalance mechanism. Now look at these two right here. They are now look. See, I don't know what y'all can see. I have learned that the camera lens can pick up things that the naked eye doesn't see. Well, things that the naked eye doesn't see, my third eye does see. Okay? Human beings have a third eye. It's associated with the pineal gland. And through spiritual practice, through ardent spiritual practice daily over periods of time, I mean consistency, like you would take on a bodybuilding program, you can open your third eye back up. It used to be open for the entire species, but they abused it and engaging in psychic warfare with each other, and it was closed as nature's way of shutting down things. Because trust me, people, y'all aren't going to destroy this planet. This planet will wipe out this civilization, and there'll be some survivors, and there'll be a bunch of casualties, and the planet will move on. So don't worry about the planet being destroyed. The majority of these human beings will go first. And I'm trying to keep things on a very simple, basic level because I can tend to go off on tangents that make things really, really complex. I am a very simple person, but I'm a very deep person, and I have a lot of experience under my belt in interacting with other races of creatures, of astral beings, of the astral plane. I can astral project at will. It's no big thing. It's no big deal. People in New Age communities make such a big deal out of astral projection and astral travel when it's something so simple, and it's something that falls into play. With spiritual development, astral projection falls into play on its own accord. In fact, I mean, through spiritual development, psychic abilities waking up on their own. They waking up on their own, and they fall into their natural place, and they can be used for what they were meant to be used for, and that's the further evolution, the further spiritual evolution of your soul. People tend to get caught up in psychism and want to pursue psychic gifts and magical abilities for the sake of their own sake, which is usually goes back to selfishness and people wanting to control other people through occult means. And that's black magic, plain and simple.